Let's talk about something we take for granted pretty much every single day: the year. It feels so simple, right? So solid and fixed. But the story of how we even got the year is this incredible secret history of astronomy and math and culture, and it stretches back for millennia. So let's pull back that curtain.
I'm going to start by asking you a really simple question. What year is it? You probably have an answer right on the tip of your tongue. But what if I told you your answer is only one of a few totally correct ones?
Because, depending on who you ask, the year could be 2025, or 5785, or maybe even 1447. That's because the Gregorian, Hebrew, and Islamic calendars are all ticking away right now, but they're counting from completely different starting points, and they're using totally different rules. And that right there, that perfectly illustrates the heart of our story. Trying to measure a year is anything but simple.
This really gets us to the fundamental challenge, the big one that every single civilization in history has had to deal with. It's a problem that is, quite literally, written in the stars.
Okay, so here's the puzzle. How do you make a calendar that actually keeps track of the seasons, which of course are all about the sun, while also trying to account for the phases of the moon, which is where we got our whole idea of a month? The thing is, these two giant celestial cycles, they don't line up neatly at all. And for thousands of years, this has been humanity's epic astronomical puzzle to solve. And what's so amazing isn't just that people tried to solve it, but that so many different cultures came up with their own brilliant and brilliantly different solutions to the very same problem. I mean, just look at this timeline. It shows you the sheer scale of this whole endeavor. We are talking about a quest that started thousands and thousands of years ago. You've got the Egyptian civil calendar way back over 4000 BCE, then the Hebrew and Chinese calendars pop up 1,000 years later. And all of this was happening long before the Julian and Gregorian calendars that we're more familiar with today. Every single point in this timeline, that's a massive attempt to bring some order to time.
So how'd they do it? Well, it turns out all of these really ingenious solutions, they can basically be grouped into three main categories. And it all depends on what they chose to focus on up in the sky: the sun, the moon, or a little bit of both.
All right, so on one side, you have solar calendars. The Gregorian one, the one most of the world uses for day-to-day stuff, is a perfect example. Its only job is to match the Earth's orbit around the sun. That's why Christmas is always in the winter in the northern hemisphere. Then, on the complete other side of the spectrum, you have pure lunar calendars, like the Islamic Hijri calendar. They follow the moon's phases, and only the moon's phases. This means their year is a bit shorter, and their months just kind of drift through the seasons over time.
And then you have the really clever hybrid, the lunisolar calendar. This is where systems like the Hebrew and Chinese calendars tried to get the best of both worlds. They used the moon's phases to mark out the months, which is really intuitive, but to stop the whole calendar from drifting away from the seasons, they came up with this brilliant idea. Every few years, they just add an entire extra leap month to get things back in sync.
Okay, so with all that in mind, how did we get to the calendar that most of us are using today? Well, that story is all about a brilliant idea from the Romans and then a critical math fix that happened more than 1,500 years later.
So back in 45 BCE, Julius Caesar rolls out the Julian calendar, and it was a huge leap forward. It was a simple, elegant solar calendar, 365 days, with one really straightforward rule. Just add an extra day every 4 years. It was a fantastic system, for sure, but it had one tiny, almost invisible flaw.
A flaw so small, it literally took centuries before it became a major headache. But that little tiny error in the math has been adding up ever since. Today, the old Julian calendar, which, by the way, is still used by many Orthodox churches for their religious holidays, is a full 13 days behind our Gregorian calendar.
So what was the fix? This is the best part. It was such a subtle but absolutely brilliant tweak to that leap year rule. The Julian rule was simple, right? A leap year every 4 years. Done. The Gregorian reform, introduced by Pope Gregory XIII, added this one tiny exception. A century year, like 1700 or 1900, is not a leap year unless it can be divided by 400, like the year 2000 was. That tiny little tweak made the calendar so much more accurate.
So, back in 1582, the reform did two things. First, it put that new, smarter leap year rule into place, and second, it instantly fixed the calendar by just jumping forward 10 days to make up for all the drift that had built up since Roman times. And that's the moment our modern global standard was really born.
But, and this is a really big but,
Just because the Gregorian calendar became the international standard for business and flying planes and all that, it doesn't mean the story just ended there. Not at all. For billions of people, these ancient systems are still very, very much alive.
I mean, these calendars are still deeply woven into the fabric of life. The Hebrew calendar is absolutely central for all Jewish religious observances. The Islamic calendar is what determines when major holidays like Ramadan and Eid happen. The Chinese calendar is what sets the date for the massive Lunar New Year festival, celebrated all around the world. Timekeeping is still a living, breathing part of culture.
Which I think brings us to the real takeaway here. A calendar is never, ever just a tool for counting days. It's a reflection of a culture's values, it's about its connection to the cosmos, it's linked to a shared past, it's a statement of identity.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. If we had to start from scratch right now and design one perfect global calendar for the future, what would we even prioritize? Would we just go for the most flawless astronomical precision possible with modern science? Or would we find some way to honor this rich tapestry of cultural traditions that all these calendars represent? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this one.